Can I take your order, please?
Okay, so now we get to actually talk about a character that I kind of like, JP. JP actually has a fair number of unique group interactions and is a character that is heavily reliant on relationships with other people in the group. I also feel that he has more of a presence in the show than most of the other characters, and he actually broke new ground being our first fat Digidestin. Granted, this makes him our main source of comic relief next to Namon, because the show just uses his weight as an excuse to make jokes, which pretty much just boil down to the writers going,
"Hey, fatty, you are fat!"
Yeah, not very tasteful. But then again, if you can hear the song I'm playing in the background, then you know I'm not handling the situation any more tastefully. But anyway, like I said, JP's got a couple relationships in this season. For the first few episodes before Koji joins the group, he's kind of like Takuya's stand-in rival, because during these episodes, JP is just shown to be boorish and lazy and just uninterested in everything and pretty much just selfish. So he doesn't want to help any characters or help anybody. He has to be kind of pushed into it by somebody else. So naturally, he and the good-natured Takuya have some confrontations when it comes to choosing which action to take. He and Tommy are also shown to be pretty good buddies. They usually stick around each other. I wouldn't go as far to say it's like a big brother-little brother relationship, but it's definitely something there, so I just thought I'd mention it. And of course, there's his relationship with Zoe. Zoe is JP's pretty much main reason to do anything, and the show doesn't even hide it. And it leads to a big problem with Zoe's character in particular, because it becomes pretty apparent that pretty much her biggest task in this show is to try to motivate JP to do things, or at least be a foil to his comedic shenanigans. Like, the greatest example for me was when Zoe loses her spirit evolution. Now, as I mentioned before, I thought that was going to be a Zoe-centered story. One where she has to overcome something, or one where she's motivated to do something. But instead she is pushed aside, first by Koji, then by Takuya, and lastly by JP, because, like I said before, Zoe doesn't really want to do anything to get her spirit evolution. She wants it back, but she's more interested in the forest terminal. And that want is echoed by everybody else in the group, except for JP, who rants and raves about how he knows that we need to get Zoe's spirit evolution back, because that's the most important thing, yada da 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 da. And essentially, he takes over Zoe's predicament as his own, because he's the one that really wants to get the spirit evolution back, and he's the one that kills Grumblemon to get it back. Essentially, like I said, pushing Zoe aside. Zoe was just there as the motivation for him to do this. The only thing she really has to herself is that stupid rivalry with Ranamon. And because of the fact that JP and her are like the comedic duo for this, I guess, the show constantly needs to put them together whenever the group splits up. And because I think that JP is overall a better written, or at least more commanding character than Zoe, she's constantly overshadowed by him. Which was the point I was trying to make when we talked about Zoe earlier, but I just felt like I could make better now, since I can go more in depth with JP's character, because like I said, they are pretty much the big duo of this season. And also I do think JP is overall a better written character, and he's probably my favorite in this season. I'm not saying he's fantastic, but he's something. I don't recall him having a lot of arcs. I mean, like I said at the beginning, he was just Takuya's sort of stand-in rival, who just was really lazy and just wanted to go home. And at times he could be the contrarian of the group, but that just seemed not overall that important because not a lot of people agreed with him. Honestly, at times he also just came off as a meatbag that people can inflict pain on, because they don't want to hit a girl and they don't want to hit a little kid, so let's just beat on Fatso. And I know what some of you are thinking, he's my favorite character because he's the whole lovesick, oh, never gonna hit the girl character, because I said I thought those characters were kind of amusing, but no. While it can be kind of charming at moments, at other moments it can be a little creepy, and I attribute it to the fact that the seasons that this worked previously in were a lot more lighthearted and I'd say a bit more tongue-in-cheek about the whole situation. This season takes itself a bit more seriously. I don't know, that's just the way I am. If the show is like kind of goofy, then I can accept these more. But when the show is kind of trying to be serious about everything, it turns, these moments into more of like, ew moments. Especially when JP talks about Zoe like she's more of an object or a pet. which makes his fantasies kind of weird, and his pickup lines are all pretty much boiled down to,
"Hey, you seem single. What's your name? I'm interested in you and your things, the things you say."
So now that I'm done bitching about JP, what is it that I exactly like about him? Well, it shows up in the Sukakumon episode. At this point, I was just really kind of neutral about JP. He was kind of annoying, but he was also kind of funny at times. He was a lot more lively than some of the other characters, but he was really kind of one note. But in the Sukakumon episode, we actually do learn something about JP in his past that I actually kind of like. In the flashback, we learn that JP has a hard time making friends. I mean, the flashback, he looks like he's the coolest guy around. He's doing magic, he's got all these people around him, he's giving out chocolate. Seems like he's the king of the world. But uh-oh, it starts raining. And JP learns that although a lot of people like hanging around him, they aren't real friends. Your goddamn magic and chocolate can't buy friends, fatso. But in all honesty, I actually do kind of like this idea for a character arc. It's been kind of hinted at this whole season. I mean, JP's always trying to bribe people with chocolate, or, you know, whenever he's in an awkward situation, he'll start doing magic. And in all honesty, I could see this being very relatable to a lot of kids. It's a very short and simple story. I mean, it's not very grandiose like My Brother or Mother Died. And I think it overall plays well with what we know about JP. It's just a simple story with a simple message. So good job, Frontier. You made me emotionally connect with one of your characters. Now let's see how you screw that up. And it's quite simple. The handling of this reveal is awful. JP is actually the first to get any sort of confrontation inside Sukakumon. So it's kind of a sign of what's going to happen to the rest of these kids. So JP gets sucked in one of these evil balls, and he's confronted with an evil Digimon who starts flat out explaining JP's personal crisis. And he makes it sound as ridiculous as possible, because apparently, according to this guy's story, Sukakumon, JP getting stuck in this little orb thing, it was all a giant trap by Takuya and the rest of the gang, just to get rid of him because they hate him so much. I know, obvious, right? I mean, if the group really wanted to get rid of him, they could have just left him behind while he was sleeping, or just flat out kick him out. No, they built or did something to create Sukakumon and then stuck him in this hole. Just, this was the only way they can get rid of him. God damn it. So JP doesn't really believe him, and he beats him up, and then all of his insecurities about his friend's loyalty manifest into an evil copy of himself that he then has to fight, all while an angry group of evil clones of his friends yell at him. This is as unsubtle as a grenade launcher. Now, like I already kind of explained the backstory, or the flashback, you know what this is about. It's just about a kid who feels insecure about his relationships with people because he doesn't feel like he can connect to them. That is a much simpler story than what is being presented here. This is just a giant over-the-top production for an issue that's not that big, all things considering, in the Digimon universe. Even then, I've already talked about how much I hate whenever like physical forms or representations are given to internal emotional problems that the kids literally have to beat up in order to get over them. And that's exactly what happens here. JP's like, oh, my friends really don't like me. And then he's like, oh, wait, yes, they do. And then he just beats up the evil Digimon that's a clone of him. And then there, he's over his insecurities. What a great arc. And it pains me because I like this idea. It's simple, and it plays well to what I thought this season was going to be. You know, with what I thought was going to be its focus on group interactions to solve personal problems without Digimon partners. This flaw would play so well to that. Just have him sit down with Tommy or Zoe or Takuya and have him express, like, how he feels that he's not respected, he's the butt of every joke or whatever. And just have them create character moments. We don't need this. This is just distracting from what is legitimately an interesting character. And having him beat up his insecurities is just a lazy way to get your point across that he's changed. Just show it with character stuff. God damn it. This is not hard, or it shouldn't be this hard. And just like Zoe, as soon as this conflict is done and he's out of Sukakumon, he pretty much just completely fades into the background. He doesn't really do anything with his character. He doesn't really do anything with the group. He's really just sidelined. He has some moments with Tommy, I guess, but they're not really that relevant or important. Screw it. This show doesn't care. I don't care. Let's just do final thoughts and evolutions and then move on to Tommy. Final thoughts. JP isn't really a character I would say is a lot of range. He is pretty much just a one-note comic relief character that the show oftentimes just likes to beat on. His concept overall isn't that original. I mean, we've seen a million characters like this. In fact, I think he sometimes resembles Davis. But in all honesty, the big reason why he stands out to me is just his idea for his backstory. I really like it, probably even more than I should, but I thought it was a cool, simple idea that was just handled awfully, horribly. But besides that, there is another reason why I like JP. His evolutions. His first evolution is Beetlemon, and this is actually my favorite of the first round of evolutions. Now, what makes this Digimon that looks just like a guy in a power suit any different than all the other Digimon this season look like just guys in power suits? I don't know. I guess I just like the helmet design more. I like the colors of the mouth plate that he has covering his mouth. Makes him look more robotic as opposed to the rest we've seen, which just have like pure human fleshy mouths. I like his wings. He's got little beetle wings he can fly around with, and I just like the idea of punching somebody with lightning. Then we have his beast evolution, Metal Kabuterimon, which despite not looking like an actual monster or a beast, instead resembling a tank, I actually do like this evolution. It's actually probably my second favorite evolution in this season. Third if you count Duskmon. It's just this giant, dumb-looking beetle tank with treads, and it's got like arms that now shoot electric balls, and its horn is turned into a cannon. It's so ridiculous, but I just really like it. It's got a lot of the stuff that I like from the previous evolution, the same color scheme, the mouth and face looks very similar. I just like it. Alright, so now we gotta move on to Tommy.